ability to perceive or to physically experience different moments in time other than the present is something all of us have wanted to accomplish. The curiosity of what the future will be, of what the past was. While I do believe science is the best way to explain reality, I do not believe it has the capacity to explain everything. November 3rd, 1963.
As lonely as life was for me, it offered a sense of bizarre satisfaction knowing I was the only one I had to care for. School didn't offer much for me other than the occasional necessary knowledge for the life ahead of me. I was a senior in high school, living in Connecticut, and as I explained before, I didn't have many friends. I spent a lot of time reading. I had a knack for understanding. The time I spent reading enhanced my ability to comprehend, but also gain knowledge. My family wasn't horrible, but not great. My mediocre relationships with them never led me anywhere. Arriving back home every day, I knew they cared about me, at least. School had started about a month ago, my final year of high school. I was very anxious to finish off the last year of required school, as my dad said. He owned a local grocery store. I was likely to work there before I could another job. I'd been working there since I was a kid. Not the best way to spend the weekends. All in all, nothing spectacular. I had a future roughly scratched into the stone path ahead of me. The morning of Thursday, November 3rd in 1963 changed the way I perceived the world. Waking up for school at an early 6 in the morning, I grabbed my bike in the garage hurriedly. Usually it took 30 minutes to arrive at my high school. However, I frequently took the shortcut through the woods nearby, shaving off about 8 minutes. The woods were rumored to have caused the disappearance of several teenagers, children, and adults. None of these rumors really captivated me, and they were all as credible as myths. Entering the woods, I felt oddly lighter than usual. I estimated I was traveling at a good 26 miles per hour. The fluctuation in weight threw me off continually, almost losing balance and flipping me over. I attempted to slow my speed to regain control. However, the efforts didn't help. I only accelerated further and further. It became difficult to control my velocity and direction. Soon it became difficult to control myself. I panicked, unaware of what was occurring. I became more focused, aware, but not relaxed. My field of view extended horizontally, revealing more of the woods beside me. My heart rate, like myself, was accelerating at great speeds, the pulse strong and violent, rushing through my veins. I soon lost all sense of perception. My memory had been distorted very briefly. My perception returned, revealing something very different from the woods I saw previously. It was replaced with what I can only describe as a junkyard, surrounded by shiny objects. They all reflected the shine of luminescent lights on the wall. Upon closer inspection, the junk appeared to be metal limbs, circuits, wires, and other unrecognizable objects. The walls seemed to contain large white tiles made of very smooth material. Flabbergasted at what I was seeing, I called out, the sound of my shout echoing throughout wherever I was. No answer was received. My mind attempted to rationalize the situation. Where the hell was I? Had I stumbled upon some unknown facility? If so, what explained the cutting-edge looking technology? What was the cause of my loss of perception? My reflecting caused me to ignore the present perception. I heard metal clangs in the distance that sounded weirdly heavy. The thumps reverberated across the walls with a hint of mechanical parts moving. It sounded not too far away. Hopefully it was help. Perhaps it was somebody I could find and ask for assistance. I began to walk towards the sound, stepping over scraps and whatever else. The sound was oddly unsettling. It was sporadic and unpredictable. It became louder and louder, and the sound waves pierced my skin, the wavelengths violent enough to cause wounds. A maze of scraps, debris, rendered it harder to navigate and locate the source. I peered around a corner of metal parts and located the source of the sound. I saw a figure, bulky and abnormally shaped. It moved unnaturally, kneeling on something. I couldn't make out what exactly it was in the darkness. I got closer, revealing a human-like person, but with metal protruding out of its body. It had no skin, but had a transparent body. I looked on the ground and saw the corpse of a person with tiny punctures covering the skin. They seemed to be lifeless, lacking life and consciousness. I scrambled, absolutely terrified. I was so stunned I couldn't think. My mind flipped every alarm switch available, causing a cacophony and avalanche of anxiety. The figure was that of a transparent human. I could see circuits and wires circulating throughout its body. The anatomy was human, but the substance was anything but. I soon realized there was liquid filling the transparent body. Different parts had different colors to the liquid. A thin needle was pierced into the person's forehead, the blood slowly traversing the tube and arriving at the head of the anomaly. The head had no face, it was just shaped like a human. It had an intensely sophisticated framework, shaping the skull and other parts of the body. An endless, intertwined network combination of wires, tubes, and circuits covered the internal parts of the transparent mold. It seemed to be unaware of my presence. Backing away carefully, I observed its behavior from a distance. The blood from the transparent molds then began to drain, exiting steadily, almost being excreted. The anomaly began to take shape. I saw skin growing on the surface, a heart and lungs formulated in the chest. Before starting to beat, blood vessels sprouted. It covered and replaced the labyrinth of machinery present already. Hairs began to protrude, bones and other limbs. My mind was frozen. All thoughts stopped. All of my perception focused on whatever this thing was. Fight or flight was paused, and for whatever reason, I couldn't activate myself. What was that thing? What was it doing? What was going to happen to me? The figure turned slowly towards me. It had half of someone's face. The chest was wide open, revealing organs and circuitry intertwined, pulsating rapidly. The face was that of a male teenager, around my age. My breathing intensified and began to shake uncontrollably. Then its face opened slowly. It had several plates that opened, revealing sets of needles primed and ready to stab. Gears, circuits, wires, all began moving in succession within. It resembled more of the person over time, taking shape. Without thinking, I ran to where I came from, desperately looking for a weapon, a place to hide and escape, anything to prevent my inevitable death. The sounds of metal grinding together tore through my ears, distorting my perception. I looked behind me to see a claw reaching towards my face with billions of joints and wires. I whipped my head around 180 degrees to reveal the woods of Connecticut. Behind me was the similar side of my neighborhood. My rationality froze, still afraid of the mechanical anomalies. Deep in thought, I began to panic uncontrollably. What if it had caught me? Would it have resulted in a painful, slow, brutal death? The machine flashing across my mind, hallucinating pain across my body. It resembled those sharp, thin needles. I arrived 10 minutes late to school. I had no choice but to pretend nothing happened. No one would believe me. Sitting at my desk, I attempted to comprehend what I had seen. Was it a hallucination? Was I truly a schizophrenic? Insane, even? Reflecting, I heard someone call to me from the other side of the room. I had spaced out so heavily I failed to perceive the door opening.
Jonathan Stahl, the principal would like to see you.
The assistant principal exclaimed to me. Summoned by the principal, I walked free of fear. I sat down, expecting to be chewed out heavily for my tardiness. Instead, he looked at me, staring intently. His eyes seemed bright, menacing. They glowed with discontent and disappointment. My heart dropped deeper down to my stomach and stopped all flow of thoughts. The principal's face popped open, a polygonal pattern. It revealed flesh, bones, and metal. Hello, Beast Boys and Ghoul Girls. Darian Black here. I narrate the stories on the Hasta La Pasta YouTube page. I just wanted to say thanks for listening to my latest narration of Mechanophobia. If you have a chance, go over to Reddit and support the author. He writes awesome stuff. This is also a quick plug for my other social media. I'm currently only on Instagram. You can find me there at Asta_la_pasta_YouTube. Basically my username _YouTube with some other underscores thrown in, just for good measure. Thanks again, stay spooky, and I'll see you next time here on Hasta La Pasta.